It's your tour guide around the SWAC Wells.
How long the tour bus, so let's go. Wednesday and Sunday out when you can take the tour.
Hop on now, we starting out. Texas land, the Panthers shout. Tigers roar and deserts drought. What's that whisper? Ain't no doubt. Next to Boot got Jacks to see. More tigers prowling, making others flee. Arkansas, a quick short spree. Golden Lions, they run free.
How long the tour bus, so let's go. Wednesday and Sunday out when you can take the tour.
We love the sip, so we raising cheers. Delta doubles, fueling fears. Braves and Tigers through the years. Echo loud in crowded spheres. Swing through Bama, hear them call. Hornets buzzing, stand up tall. Bulldogs barking in the hall. Feel the rhythm break or fall. Sunshine State, we ending last. Rattlers creeping, moving fast. Join the chorus, make it blast. Wildcats past and future, hold it fast. SWAC stories on the stage. Every chapter turning page.
All right, everybody, what's going on, man? How y'all doing? Welcome to today's edition of SWACTalk, the show we cover the SWAC inside and out. I am your tour guide around the SWAC. C. Wells coming at you, and we gonna dip our toes back in football for a little bit. We're gonna take a look at some of the schedules that have been released, and I'm gonna give my thoughts on them. And so we'll do that. We're gonna break them up in half. We'll do 6 today and 6 probably probably after the conference tournament is over next week. So we're gonna have one today and then one maybe the week after next, and then we'll be done with that. And by that time, we'll be almost done with NCAA tournament and any other postseason tournaments, and spring practice will be going on for most people. So we'll slide directly into that. So y'all, make sure y'all hit those socials. Facebook is SWACTalk, Instagram SWACTalk, Twitter SWACTalk76. Like the video, comment, share. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell to be alerted to videos when I drop them, like on today. Typically, I do drop on Wednesdays and Sundays, but sometimes I put out videos on other days. So, it's today Wednesday. Oh, today is Wednesday, so it's all good. But any other day that's a non-Wednesday or non-Sunday, hit the notification bell to be alerted. And I know sometimes YouTube do be a little janky with their notifications, but just keep that bell hit and rock with us like that. So we're gonna go ahead and jump directly into this, man. I have a little I call it a ranking scale, but it's just something I like to do to kind of assign my thoughts on a schedule, and I'll go over it for you guys. Basically, I assign a point total to each game depending on what level the team is on. So first off, is FBS games, Power 4 games. I give them 3 points. Group of 6 games, I give them 2 points. Any FCS game, I give 1 point. Any a D2 game, I don't assign any points. Anything less than that, I'm taking points off. Because I understand sometimes I understand that some teams have to have these teams on their schedule because they had teams drop out or anything else happen crazy. But I feel like barring any kind of emergency situation, these kind of teams should not be on schedule. So I'm always have that strong feeling, and that goes for my school as well. I just don't like those kind of games. And for example, Lincoln, Virginia Lynchburg, all those kind of teams, I don't really like those games. They don't really serve any purpose to me. So I'm never gonna look highly on those. So we're gonna go ahead and take a look at the first schedule on this slideshow, and that would be the Alabama A&M Bulldogs. Coach Sam Shade his first year at Bama A&M. leading the Bulldogs. I assigned their schedule for 13 points. They have an SEC school in the University of Arkansas, which is when they open their season on on August 30th. They go to Fayetteville to take on the Razorbacks. They come home to play Alcorn on September 6th. They're at Tennessee State on September 13th. September 20th, they play Lane College at home. They go to Bethune-Cookman on September 27th. Play Jackson State and Mobile on October 1st. Get Valley at home on October 11th. They have a bye, which they traditionally have before the Magic City Classic. No, October 25th is the Magic City Classic. November 1st, they're at Grambling. November 8th, they're at home against Prairie View. November 15th, they're home against FAMU. And then November 22nd, they close out their season at Texas Southern. This schedule, I'm not a huge fan of Power 5 games, Power 4 games, whatever you want to call it. But, I understand why those games are played. So playing Arkansas is that kind of game. I think Alcorn's a non-conference game, I believe. So, this trend of playing conference opponents for non-conference games, I don't like. Of course, it's better than playing, Virginia, Lynchburg, or Lincoln. But I'm not a big fan of playing non-conference SWAC teams. And again, my school included, unless it's a situation where you have a rivalry that doesn't need to drop off the schedule. I don't have a problem with that. But any other thing, I don't really see a need to play Alcorn if you're Alabama A&M, other than the fact that you probably ain't played them in a while. But that's a home game for you. So I think there's a Lewis Cruz Classic, if I'm not mistaken. Tennessee State's a good regional rivalry. Good to kind of revamp that. Again, I don't mind a D2 game, especially when you're trying to sneak in a home game in a 12-game season. I don't really mind that too much. Then you get 2 games away from home at Bethune-Cookman, then a neutral site against Jackson State. I think that game should be home and home, but it is what it is. Come home for Valley, then a bye week, then Magic City Classic. So you have, depending on, I don't know what Valley is going to be, but you basically have a good home game for you, a good, should be a win, and then a bye week before you go into the big game. So coming off of that, you go to Grambling, then you're home for 2, and then you close out at Texas Southern. So you have some long trips. You got to go to Arkansas, you got to go to Daytona, you got to go to Houston, you got to go to Grambling. So you do have some trips, but they're all kind of spaced out. So you got a long trip where you got a trip to Arkansas, then you come home and play Alcorn. You got to go to Bethune, but you got a home game before that, and then after that you got a neutral site game in Alabama, and then you got a home game after that. So you got 7 games before your first bye week. That's going to be interesting. It almost breaks the season up into halves, but just off of that. The close, right now it's tough to say if these games are going to be easy or hard because we don't know anything about a lot of these teams. But you close out with 2 on the road and 2 at home and a neutral site game. So 3 of your last 5 games are in the state of Alabama. If you go back, you have you have 5 of your last 7 games in the state of Alabama. You actually have 7 games in total in the state of Alabama, so not a lot of travel for you. I mean, you do have some long trips, but for the most part, you're in state. 2 neutral site games, so that that's an opportunity to kind of branch out. So all in all, it's a pretty solid schedule. It kind of fits my formula: FBS, FCS opponent, then a D2 opponent if you need an extra game at home. So I like it. It's nothing flashy, but I like it. And it fits what I kind of think. Next is Bama State, the Hornets. Um, I gave their schedule 11 points. They have a group of 16. Um, they have two D2 teams, which I understand these, there's always context behind those, these statements. I understand playing Miles, they played them in recent years, as a home game. And of course, I understand Tuskegee in the Turkey Day Classic. So I'm never gonna argue those kind of games. I mean they've been playing Tuskegee forever, and I wouldn't want that game to disappear. So I'm never gonna argue that game being it should be playing that's a rivalry, and it shouldn't go away. And Miles has been kind of a competitive team for them in recent years. So it's not a bad thing. And Southern on the road as well. Um, well, they I think they're counting Southern as a conference game. I don't. Okay. Um, I don't know. Well, they got Southern marked as a conference game, but that will get them 9 conference games. So I'm assuming that Southern would not be a conference game. Um, but they have Southern on the road. And they open up at UAB on a Thursday night, August 28th. Then they go to Baton Rouge on September 6th. First time in Baton Rouge since 2016. They get Miles at home to open up their home schedule on September 13th. They're at FAMU on September 27th. October 4th, they get Bethune-Cookman at home for homecoming. October 11th, they're at Jackson State. October 25th, after their bye week, they get the Magic City Classic against Alabama A&M. November 1st, they're at Prairie View. November 8th, they get Texas Southern at home. November 15th, they get Valley on the road. November 22nd, they close out SWAC play at home against Pine Bluff. And then they close out their season on Thanksgiving on November 27th against Tuskegee in the Turkey Day Classic. The beginning of their season, they have 4 of their first 6 games are on the road. Although one of those games is in Alabama. 2 trips to Birmingham this season. Like I said, a trip to Baton Rouge, which they haven't been in a while. FAMU is a good conference game on the road in Jackson State. So that their schedule is actually front loaded with the teams who are basically going to be considered contenders in both divisions. You get the top 2 teams. You get your top 2 opponents in the East early. You get Southern, who will be, regardless, there will be a team. There will be a team considered a contender in the West. You get them, although I do believe that's a non-conference game, so it don't really affect the standings, if I'm not mistaken. You close out with some games that are manageable at home. You got Pine Bluff and Texas Southern at home. You go to Prairie View and Valley, and of course Tuskegee. So they have 6 home games, 6 road games. That's a nice balance. I don't have a problem with that. And the longest trip they have is to Prairie View. So not a lot of travel. Again, just like Alabama and them, they got a lot of games in the state of Alabama. They have 7 games in the state of Alabama. So you really can't beat that in terms of traveling. And like I said, there's no real long trips. You only have back-to-back road games once, and that's at the beginning of the season. And you close out with 2 straight at home. So basically, after going on the road for 2 weeks, you home, road, all the way to the end of the season when you're at home for your last 2 games. So this is a pretty solid schedule. Like I said, I gave it 11 points. I don't have any big complaints about them playing Tuskegee or Miles. So I understand those games, so never gonna really gripe about that. And so next we move on to the Braves of Alcorn State. Again, I assigned the Braves 11 points as well, but for a different reason. When you look at their schedule, they're on the road a lot to open up the season. and so that's a rough start. Um, they play Lincoln, and I'm just it's homecoming. I understand, you want to get that easy win for homecoming. Whatever they'll come for 30 cents or whatever. But I just don't like that game. I just don't like that team on anybody's schedule. Um, so I had to dock 2 points for that. But other than that, Northwestern State's a good opener. That team is, I think they're kind of coming around, but that is a game that you have a chance to win. Um, at Alabama State. And then at Pine Bluff. So your first 4 games are on the road before you open up your home schedule on October 4th against Prairie View. Then you have Lincoln for homecoming on October 11th. October 18th, you're at FAMU. October 25th, you get Valley at home. November 1st, you get Texas Southern on the road. November 8th, you get Southern at home. November 15th, you get Grambling at home. And then November 22nd, you go to Jackson. That's a pretty tough close out of your schedule. You basically have 3 games that are basically rivalry games to close out your season. Um, Alcorn does have a lot of road games. This season they only have 5 home games. So they're going to be on the road a lot, especially early. After those 4 straight, you get 2 straight at home. You go on the road, you come home, road, home, and then on the road to close out the season. Again, not a lot of travel. Tallahassee is probably the furthest that you Tallahassee and Huntsville and Houston are your longest trips. But again, not crazy trips. You're not traveling all across country for your FBS game, which I don't that never really makes sense to me. But again, the SWAC team for non-conference, I'm not really into that. But it like I said, it is what it is. I think it's one of those. It's a solid schedule. Again, I'm just not a fan of that Lincoln game. But what you're gonna do? You can't do much about that. So it is what it is. So we'll continue to harp on them games, man. I'm gonna always gripe about those games. Next up is Bethune-Cookman, the Wildcats. They have 14 points. They have the highest point total of any team on this part of the preview. They have 2 FBS games this season. That's another thing. I'm not. I know I sound like I'm bitching about a lot of stuff, but I'm not really a big fan of 2 FBS games, especially back to back like that. But you gotta get bread. So you gotta get bread. But they go to Miami twice in back to back weeks. First off, on August 30th, they go to play Florida International, and then September 6th they play Miami Hurricanes. They go to South Carolina State on September 13th. September 20th, they open up their home schedule with Edward Waters. They get Alabama State, they get Alabama A&M at home on September 27th. October 4th, they go to Montgomery to take on the Hornets at Alabama State. October 11th, they host Southern. October 25th, they get Pine Bluff at home. November 1st, they get Valley at home. So they have a pretty good stretch of home games. And then they close out on the road at Grambling on November 8th, at Jackson State on November 15th, and the Florida Classic in Orlando on November 22nd. So 3 road games to start the season, 2 home games, a road game, 3 home games, 3 road games. There's a lot of travel, as far as back to back weeks in this schedule. Like I said, you got the 2 trips to Miami and then South Carolina State. Those are 3 games that are going to be tough to open up your schedule. You get your home opener against Edward Waters, then you get a conference game at home. Go on the road, then you back home for 3. So and those 3 games are honestly 2 out of those 3 are really manageable. like I said, I don't know what anybody has right now, so I'm not gonna say whether games are wins or losses, but you can always kind of infer which teams might be a little bit further behind than other teams at this point. But I think um, for having a long stretch, having two stretches of three straight road games, I think that's kind of tough for anybody. Um, and so everything's all kind of in a bunch. Your home games all in a bunch, your road games in a bunch. So you kind of once you're on the road, you're kind of on the road. Once you're at home, you're kind of at home. And so I think it doesn't really have a good flow to it. But it's not a murderer's road schedule other than those two FBS games. You have a good MEAC opponent, and then you have a D2 opponent for your first home game. So with three out of four non-conference games on the road, you need a home game. And so Edward Waters definitely fits the bill there. Next up is FAMU, the Rattlers. Their schedule, I gave them 12 points. They have an FBS opponent in Florida Atlantic. They have Albany State for their D2 opponent, and they play two MEAC teams. So they have a good schedule. They back in the Orange Blossom Classic. They're playing Howard to open up the season there on August 30th. In North Carolina Central at home. So that's a good, again, that's a good schedule. They only have to go away. They only have to go out of the state of Florida 4 times. And so this is a very favorable schedule. You like I said, you open up in Miami against Howard on August 30th. September 6th, you go back to that area to take on Florida Atlantic and Boca Raton. You come home for your home opener on September 13th. You get Bama State at home on September 27th. October 4th, you go to Valley. October 11th, you back home for North Carolina Central. October 18th, you get Alcorn at home. October 25th, you're at Southern. You're back at home on November 1st against Jackson State. November 8th, you're at Pine Bluff. November 15th, you're at Alabama A&M, and then you're in Orlando on November 22nd for the Florida Classic. So 2 road games to start the season, two straight home games, a road game, 2 straight home games, a road game, a home game, and then 3 games on the road to close out. Again, that's a lot of back and forth at the end of the season. But the home games are pretty solid. Of course, that Jackson State game is going to be the biggest game on the schedule. Period. Regardless of regardless of what's been happening, that's a huge game. So you always that's a lot of anticipation for that game. Alcorn, in the first matchup with them since they've been in the SWAC. So that's been a game a lot of people been like, when you go play Alcorn? So now they got them, and they got them at home. North Carolina Central is a good home game. You get Bama State at home. So, I think you got a solid home schedule. And again, just like, a few of these other teams on this list, you only got to lead a state of Florida 4 times. So, you well within your state confines. And so I think I think this is another schedule that's, very manageable. We're not, like I said, we're not going to get into, wins and losses right now. But, I think this is a very, very manageable. You get a couple home games back to back, which always is good. I'm not really, I don't really like closing out with 3 games away from home, although one is a neutral site. But 3 games away from home is going to be, a task to kind of get through at the end of the season. But I think having that is going to probably be a tough thing. But those games, may not be that challenging. So we'll just see. But I think this is a solid schedule. No Power 5, no Power 4 game. Just a group of 6 opponent. And so that's a solid game there. And our last one that we're going to cover today is the Grambling Tigers. They also got 12 points on my scale. They open with Ohio State. Ohio State is the reigning college football playoff champs. They're NIL monster. So I'm sure they're gonna be, they're gonna have their pick of the portal. That's hopefully that's a good check. A game like this, hopefully it's a good check. I mean, it's exposure if you want to look at it that way. But hopefully it's a good check. They come home for Kentucky State and then East Texas A&M. So, back-to-back home game there. Then you get State Fair Classic in Dallas on September 27th. They got a pretty early bye week on October 4th. October 11th, they get Texas Southern at home for homecoming. October 18th, they go to Pine Bluff. October 25th, they play Jackson State in Las Vegas. That's a game I think is going to draw a great crowd. I think that's a great game, and that's a great matchup for that game. I think it's going to be a good crowd for that game. November 1st, they back home for Alabama A&M. October 8th, they get Bethune-Cookman at home. November 15th, they get Alcorn on the road, and then the Bayou Classic is on November 29th in New Orleans against Southern. Other than the Ohio State game, I have zero complaints about this schedule. Grambling is always going to have neutral site games. Of course, you're always going to have the State Fair Classic in Dallas. You're always going to have the Bayou Classic in New Orleans. And now you get this game against Jackson State in Las Vegas. That's a great opportunity to showcase your brand in a region that HBCU football isn't played in, hadn't been played in a long time. So this is a good opportunity, for this matchup. Like I said, again, it's a matchup I like to be in that game. And you have Grambling is a team that doesn't typically have a lot of home games, but you have 5 this year, so that's solid. And it's not, like I said, it's not really your tougher games are kind of spaced out. Like I said, you do have some travel ahead of you, but that's always been Grambling's MO, and they're always going to be a team that takes themselves around and showcase their brand. So you're not going to really see that any other way for them. So other than the Ohio State game, which again I understand, I think this is a pretty solid schedule, and it's got some really good games. They're pretty front loaded in the East Division, in the West Division. Three of their first conference games are SWAC West opponents. So you're gonna really find out where this team is very early. And then you close out with 2 straight West opponents. Your East opponents are kind of sandwiched in between that. Again, they have 3 non-conference games before their bye. They have 3 non-conference games and a conference game before their bye week. So they have a chance to kind of get themselves together after 4 weeks and kind of figure out where they're at and what they're doing. And of course, they had their bye week before the Bayou Classic. So I think like I said, I think once you get into the conference schedule, it shapes up pretty well. I mean, you only have 1 true road game for a conference game. You have 3 neutral site games for conference games, but you only have 1 true road game for a conference game. Man, honestly, you can't beat that. Which means the bulk of your conference games are at home. 3 out of 8 are at home. 3. Let's see, is that right? No, yeah, 2. Two true road games and 3 neutral site games. So 3 of your games are on the road. 3 of your games neutral site, 3 at home, 2 on the road. That's a pretty good balance. And your true road games are spaced out with 3 weeks in between them. So you don't really have to do a lot of going to other teams' stadiums. And I think that's a good mark. You only have you only have 3 true road games for your entire schedule. So that you can't really beat that. I think that's a pretty good thing. You're doing a lot of traveling, but mainly it's neutral site games, which is always an advantage for everybody. So pretty solid schedule again. Ohio State, I get it, but I'm never gonna be okay with those kind of games. But I get it. the East Texas A&M game is a good Southland opponent. And when I say good, I mean, you know, is a good matchup and a good opponent for you in terms of playing a regional FCS opponent. Not that they're good, and then you know a D2 game for your first home game. You know, I think that's fine. And so all in all, pretty solid schedule. I love the Las Vegas game. I think that game gonna be well attended. I really wish I could go to that game. Just for the fact of go to Las Vegas. You know, I think that you know I missed the last time Southern was out there, so you know maybe fortunes will shine on me and take that trip. But these are our first 6 SWAC schedules. Like I said, we'll be back probably after the conference tournament to preview and give my rankings on the next 6 schedules, and then we'll kind of start to ease in the spring football. And so you know we got a lot still coming your way. Gonna have a lot of tournament coverage. Probably gonna do a day by day recap of the tournament. One year I did session by session, and that shit wore me out. So we're gonna probably do a day by day recap, and we'll see. So with that being said, man, I'm your tour guide around the SWAC, C Wells, signing out, and I will catch y'all on the rebound. Peace.